And welcome again to Cottage Talk. I am Russ Goldman. This is another episode of Fulham News and Notes, and it is for today, which is March the 9th, Thursday, 2023. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Clint Dempsey turning 40. Man, he's 40 years old, and I'm going to share what his decision to go to Fulham for my home club, the New England Revolution, meant to me, because that decision led to me become a Fulham supporter. So I'm going to share a little bit about my thoughts on that. After that, I'm going to talk a little bit again about Manor Solomon and the continued talk about his future. It is something that we're going to have to follow throughout the summer, but I'm going to share my thoughts on what is going on and what could potentially happen with Manor Solomon and Fulham. To end the show, I'm going to share my thoughts on Bernd Leno. There was an article in the London Evening Standard with some very interesting quotes about him playing against Arsenal once again, and I'll share my thoughts on that. As always, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. Okay, so let's get going. And as I mentioned to start this, Clint Dempsey turns 40 years old today. And I've never met Clint. I've never had the opportunity to talk to Clint. I wish I could. I've reached out to him, and I've just not been able to connect with him to get him on Cottage Talk. I would love to speak to Clint. And the first thing I would do is just to say thank you to him, because without his decision to move on from the New England Revolution to Fulham, I wouldn't have become a Fulham supporter. It's as simple as that. I was looking for a club, and I was looking for a club that fit my personality, fit everything that I'm about. And when he went to Fulham, now I did not start following Fulham right away in that first season. But over that next summer, the Great Escape season, I was still searching for a club to call my own. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give Fulham a shot. And Clint Dempsey was a player for Fulham at the time. I remember the first match against Arsenal at the Emirates. And I thought, okay, this is a club I can get behind. Not a club that's at the top of the table, a club that is going to be fighting to stay in the league, but also be a club, a family club. I could tell off the bat that this is a club that fit me. So I started following Fulham and following Clint's time at Fulham. Very quickly on, it became much more about Fulham Football Club than Clint Dempsey. Clint Dempsey brought me to Fulham, but he's not the reason why I became a Fulham supporter. It really has to do with the experience, it being a family club, how the team played together, all of that. The Great Escape season definitely helped me become a Fulham supporter, but it was the overall experience. It was the Fulham supporters. There was so much involved that really got into me. It got into my blood. So that's really how I started. It really did start with Clint, but Clint was just a part of it. Then I got to learn more about the players, obviously, about the manager, Roy Hodgson. I thought Roy Hodgson was a manager I could really get behind. The style of play, it wasn't free-flowing. It was conservative, but it was playing as a team. And one other thing that I remember in that first season, that Great Escape season, is that they all played for each other. They fought to the end, and they found a way to stay in the Premier League. And Clint was just a part of it. And then we moved forward. What was so great about this is that it would have been easy for Fulham to struggle after that first season, but they moved on. They absolutely moved on and had an incredible season the next season, and then the following season. And then we have the Europa League. And like I mentioned, when I look back at all this, when I look back at me becoming a Fulham supporter, I do have to point to Clint Dempsey for all of what he did for Fulham, scoring all the goals. The goal against Juventus, that's the one that everyone points to, but it was a lot more than that. He was a great player. And it's great that today he turns 40 years old, and I can talk a little bit about how I became a Fulham supporter and how Clint played a massive role in this. It's funny because here it was not looked upon in a positive light because they were losing their best player, the New England Revolution. There was a lot of talk about that. But for me, it's been a blessing that he made this decision to go to Fulham Football Club. So happy 40th birthday today, Clint Dempsey. So that's part one of this show. Now let's move on to part two, and I'm going to talk about Manor Solomon. And we all knew this was going to happen once he started scoring goals, that there'd be interest from other clubs. And ironically, after a loss, unfortunately, you've got Fabrizio Romano tweeting right after the match about the interest that Manor Solomon's going to have this summer, that he possibly has as of right now. So timing is bad. I wish he didn't do that, but we all know this. This is nothing new. We knew that this is going to come down when Fulham signed him on loan. Now, the interesting part of the loan situation, to go back to that, is this. I'm glad that Fulham got him here. There's all kinds of speculation. No one really knows except for Manor Solomon, his agent, the team, Shakhtar Donetsk, exactly what went down here. We've all heard things, but we don't exactly know how it all went down. We heard the speculation that Fulham were looking to sign him for $7 million. Well, that never happened. And then they were able to, with this rule, be able to bring him on loan. Now, I guess it's easy to say, why didn't they sign him permanently, especially with everything that's going on? All I'm going to say on all this is that we do not know the particulars. We don't know everything that was going on back then. And we don't know, and I'll say this again, we don't know the FFP situation Fulham were under this summer. We don't know. That might have been a part of this as well. Maybe possibly if they sign Manor Solomon, they don't get a chance to sign another player that they wanted to sign. I don't know. But they were able to bring him in. Was it a gamble? Well, I would say even right now, the gamble has paid off because Manor Solomon has been fantastic. The question will be, is he just simply a rental for 1 year? And I hope not. I really hope not. But only time will tell because he's going to get offers. And at this point, this is just me speaking. I don't blame the club for not signing him permanently because I just don't know the particulars of what was going on behind the scenes. I just don't know. So it's hard for me to blame them. Do I wish that they signed him permanently? Of course I do. But this is the situation at hand. So now we move forward to this summer, and I'm sure Fulham are going to do whatever they can to sign him permanently. He will have offers. But it's not all about Fulham at this point. It really will come down to the decision of Manor Solomon. Does he want to stay at Fulham? So if he doesn't want to stay at Fulham, that will be his decision. If he wants to go to another club in the Premier League, again, that's his decision. He has that right. And we'll have to deal with whatever he ultimately decides to do. I'm sure the club will do everything that they can to sign him permanently, but ultimately the decision's going to come down to Manor Solomon. So let's hope he stays. I hope he stays, but only time will tell. And we're just going to have to look at it as a short-term situation for Fulham. I'm sure he's going to continue to score goals. Fulham should play him as much as possible. It's not about his value going up for him. It's about him helping Fulham. And, well, his value will go up for him personally. But for Fulham, it's about him helping the team this season. Regardless of what happens this summer, he has helped Fulham Football Club a tremendous amount. He really has. And he was out for a long period of time. So let's see what happens with Manor Solomon. And I do hope that he re-signs with Fulham this summer. I'll leave it at that. Coming up next, to end this quick episode of Cottage Talk, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bernd Leno and him playing against his former club Arsenal once again. Okay, so we're back, and I'll just say one more time. Please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Please do leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us and supporters of other clubs. I also just had a very nice message on YouTube from an Arsenal supporter who just bumped into the podcast and was happy that he did. And so I want to say thank you very much for listening to Cottage Talk and watching as well. I really appreciate that. Okay. So my final topic for today involves Bernd Leno. And there's an article in the London Evening Standard with some quotes from Leno in regards to Fulham, in regards to Arsenal. But I'm going to focus on the part that talks about Fulham. So again, this is from an article from the London Evening Standard, and these are quotes from Bernd Leno. Quote, "We were all good additions, but we are not the spine of the team. The energy was already there before." Leno says modestly, quote, "My form is the same as the team's, pretty good. Most of the games at the beginning, you have the feeling you are the underdog. At Arsenal, it was a little different because you always had to win and there was a lot of pressure. This season, we gave everything back to the fans. The expectations were different, but now the fans' dream, it's growing. I feel at home here," unquote. What a great quote, to be honest with you. He feels at home at Fulham, and that's fantastic. He's a 31-year-old goalkeeper, I think right now at the top of his game. And here is another player that you could say it's a little bit of a reclamation project, like Andres Pereira. Just like that, where he wasn't going to play and he needed to go. And Pereira's situation was a little bit different, but Fulham have found these players. Willian is another one that in the right situation, with the right coaching, in the right system, they flourished. Bernd Leno has flourished at Fulham. He is an elite goalkeeper. And it just might have been he did not fit the type of goalkeeper Mikel Arteta wanted. That's fine. It's Fulham's benefit because he fits Fulham perfectly. And in the article, Bernd Leno also states that he wanted, obviously, he was happy in London and he wanted to stay in the Premier League. So it all worked out for him coming to Fulham. And I think that he'll be Fulham's number one goalkeeper for years to come. He's been a big part of Fulham's success. And dare I say, he will be up for player of the season. There are several that will have that right to call themselves player of the season. He's one of them. He's been fantastic. So I am so happy that Fulham got this player for such a low fee. I believe it was £3 million. Think about that. They got Bernd Leno, and he's worked out tremendously. And look how good Arsenal are doing. Arsenal are doing great. They have two very good goalkeepers. One I know very well who's the backup goalkeeper, which I think made a mistake by going to Arsenal, and that's Matt Turner. Matt Turner was the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national team and also for the New England Revolution. I think he made an error in judgment going to Arsenal. In fact, I wanted him to come to Fulham, but he wanted to go to Arsenal. Fine. He's at Arsenal. Fulham, I think, got the better goalkeeper in Bernd Leno. So it all worked out. Turner goes to Arsenal. Leno comes here. And Fulham are flourishing with Bernd Leno as their starting goalkeeper. That's pretty great. And it's pretty great, like I said in the article, that Leno feels at home at Craven Cottage with Fulham Football Club. It's a wonderful thing. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this quick episode of Cottage Talk. Third time I'm going to mention, please do subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. It does help other Fulham supporters find us. We will have a preview show coming up soon of this match on Sunday against Arsenal, and we will continue to bring you more and more shows. Thank you for listening to the show. I really appreciate it. That's going to do it for this episode. My name is Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk, now part of the talkSPORT Fan Network.